Hello everybody, it's Carpo here, and I just wanted to share a piece of literature with you while we're always on the subject of books. I pulled this out of a random pile of books I had in the garage. I didn't know where it came from at first, and I checked out the binding, and it's The Wisdom of Confucius. And I found that kind of interesting. I've always been pretty into stuff like Alan Watts, and Zen Buddhism, and Confucius was always an interesting character to me. But this book was my dad's, and I remember that he had it on the bookshelf. It just ended up in my books, and I didn't really know what it was. One of those things that you kind of take into your book collection, and copyright 1900 made me realize how old this thing really is. And it's pretty interesting, when you go back in time. And you can really look at the aging, on the pages. But having old books is pretty fun. I just thought I'd read this intro because I found it fascinating. Okay, maybe not fascinating. Interesting. And grab something really quick here. I've been fairly interested in Buddhism and Hinduism, but I'm not like a scholar of it, and I definitely don't follow it. This was kind of the part that summed it up, was the first chapter. It's the introduction. It says, "The strangest figure that meets us in the annals of Oriental thought is that of Confucius. To the popular mind, he is the founder of a religion, and yet he has nothing in common with the great religious teachers of the East. We think of Siddhartha, the founder of Buddhism, as the very impersonation of romantic asceticism, enthusiastic self-sacrifice, and faith in the things that are invisible. Zoroaster is the friend of God, talking face to face with the Almighty, and drinking wisdom and knowledge from the lips of omniscience. Mohammed is represented as snatched up into heaven, where he receives the divine communication, which he is bidden to propagate with fire and sword throughout the world. These great teachers lived in an atmosphere of the supernatural. They spoke with the authority of inspired prophets. They brought the unseen world close to the minds of their disciples. They spoke positively of immortality, of reward or punishment beyond the grave. The present life they despised. The future was to them everything in its promised satisfaction. The teachings of Confucius were of a very different sort. Throughout his whole writings, he has not even mentioned the name of God. He declined to discuss the question of immortality. When he was asked about spiritual beings, he remarked, 'If we cannot even know men, how can we know spirits?'" And I think that a lot of you can resonate with that and understand where that's coming from. And from that point of view, Confucius has a lot to contribute. That line really hit home with me. If we cannot even know men, how can we know spirits? It's just it's so true. And when I read that, it completely correlated with the video I made last night about why do we spend so much time in space and exploring and spending all this money out in space when we can't even take care of our own. And I think religiously searching, we do the same thing. And that's what I take from that, is that he was into the behavior of man, being the best we can, being the best person we can, not ignoring God or not saying God doesn't exist, not claiming yourself to be religious or atheist or being an ism or in a group or an ist, just being a person. And I think it takes a lot to be a wise philosopher that bases your ideas on Buddhism yet never speaks of God. And I think he probably did that on purpose to keep himself distanced from it so he could talk about what was really important. And I'm kind of along those same lines too. And that's kind of what Buddhism is, of course, is the empowerment of the individual. But yeah, I'm going to have to look more into Confucianism because he sounds like a really good man. So, namaste.